Welcome back to Stepfamily Saturdays with your Stepfamily guides who are here to lead you through your Stepfamily journey. For those of you new to Stepfamily Saturdays, I'm Adrienne, founder of The Art of Blended Chaos, mom of two, stepmom of two, and here to guide you through your daily challenges of blended family life. With me today are my fellow Stepfamily guides, Amy and Amelia. I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves, then we're going to dive into an open discussion about understanding your partner's perspective in dealing with the ex. Amelia, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Amelia, the owner of Lane Stepfamily Coaching. I'm a second wife, mom of two, and stepmom of one. I'm also a child of divorce, so I offer a few different perspectives when I'm dealing with my clients. Yeah, Amy?
Thank you so much, Amelia. I'm Amy. I am the founder of Dare to Parent and the creator of Steps for Success, which is a 5-week program, coaching program. Mom of 3 adult kiddos, not a stepmom, but being a parenting and stepfamily coach, I deal with a lot of step couples and step parents. So I bring kind of a different perspective because I'm from the outside looking in, but I'm here to help guide you. I'll share my techniques that I share with my clients with you. So we're here to help and support.
Wonderful. So now we're going to dive into answering as many of the commonly asked questions that we receive as stepfamily coaches and provide answers, tips, strategies to help you navigate all things stepfamily life. So this week we're focusing on the ex, understanding our partner's perspectives and feelings, and how to ensure that we're being supportive partners from our end. During last week's conversation, we touched on how your partner deals with his ex, what bothers you, how you've overcome those feelings, how you deal with the triggers of fear and jealousy. And this week, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into looking at it from your partner's perspective and looking at having some compassion for them to help your partnership grow stronger rather than allow a third wheel to come in between that. So our first question, we commonly hear that partners put their exes first. So we're going to talk about how to cope with this and how to find peace with that and how to have better understanding. So who wants to dive into sharing perspective on this?
I'd like to start by saying, and something I like to remind my clients of is ultimately you and your partner are a team. You're on the same team and you're working towards the same goal. So, you know, it might feel like he or she is putting the ex before you, but for the most part, in my own personal experience and my experience with my clients is that that's not necessarily what they're doing. It might feel that way, but after some communicating and understanding, again, I think I touched on it last week, talking about our egos getting in the way a little bit. You know, once you can step back and really assess the situation as a whole, a lot of times you can see that, you know, they aren't putting their ex first. They simply might be doing it to avoid more conflict, or, you know, maybe they're fearful of their child being, you know, taken away, like losing visitation. You know, if you're dealing with someone toxic, they'll use pretty much anything and everything against you. So a lot of time, I think it's really important to just recognize those things in our partners and again, communicate with them. And I think Amy can talk more about communicating. But yeah, just listening and understanding before you jump to conclusions. And I know that that's, you know, really easy when you're being triggered and when you're feeling insecure and jealous. It's, you know, I'm guilty of it, you know, jumping to that conclusion that, you know, she's being put first. But yeah, I really encourage you to sit back and listen to what your partner says.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in what you shared, which leads us to another question that we get quite frequently is, you know, or something that I always recommend is to have a conversation with your partner to seek to understand. And then the question I get in return is, how do I have that conversation? How do I start it? How do I prepare for it? What does that look like? So Amy, do you want to talk us through some of the communication pieces that you so often teach?
I would love to, because this is one of my happy spots when I get to work with couples on this. When we start talking about, how do I start those conversations? One of the first things I always tell couples is to think about as individuals when your talk time is. So, I know within my marriage, and we're hitting 31 years, which makes me feel really old when I say that. But one thing that I had to figure out was the fact that just because I'm a morning person and I have a million thoughts in my head that I want to share right away, my husband's the opposite. He's a night owl. So I had to slow my roll basically and say, all right, he needs time to wake up, kind of get his day going, and then I can share my thoughts. So figure out as an individual when your talk time is. When are you most alert? When are you most open to hearing conversations? When are you willing to focus in on just that and not have the phone or anything else going on? Think, have your partner do the same thing, and then sit down as a couple and figure out when is going to be our best talk time. When, is it when the kids are in bed? Is it when the kids are out at their birth parents' home, the other birth parents' home, things like that? So find that time and then set it on your calendar as a weekly thing, just to check in, because then these conversations don't have to feel so big. It's just a conversation, So once you guys get used to having that conversation on a weekly basis, it's like, hey, all right, on Sunday at 6 o'clock, I know that we're going to sit down and talk. I can bring this up then, which then kind of de-escalates your stress at that point too. You're all wound up. As Amelia said, sometimes we tell ourselves that things are bigger than they actually are. So this kind of gives you time to kind of catch your breath, think about how you want to approach it, and then also kind of de-escalate your emotions, so that you can have a rational conversation. The
Sounds
other
like
thing I would
using
like,
sounds like using your bar method that you taught yesterday or last
yes,
week's session.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, and if someone wants to learn that technique, pop back to the first one. The one other thing I really want to, because I don't want this to be a whole thing about communication. This is what I teach outside, but there's 3 things that stop communication very quickly in these kinds of conversations, and I call it the 3 C's. So we critique, we criticize, and we complain. So critiquing is when you discuss that person, from an overall picture. You're so lazy. You never help. You this that. It's kind of, we call it character assassination. When we criticize, it's more specific. So you go from you're so lazy to you never do this thing, or you always do this thing. The last part of that is the complaining. It's no, don't do it that way. You're doing it wrong. That can drive people nuts. So when you want to have good conversation with your partner, don't do those things, because that will shut it down immediately, and then you're not going to get anywhere, because your partner will get defensive, and then your conversation is going to end up going in completely wrong direction. So I'm going to close there because I know we've got more questions.
No, thank you. That sounds like the laundry argument in my house, but my husband's, willing to do laundry, but I want it done my way.
Yes.
and he frequently reminds me, you either want me to do it or you're just going to do it your way.
Yes, absolutely.
So, along these same lines, I know we all hear from various clients throughout our practice that there's different things that they wish their partners understood from their perspective. So I'd love to talk through what some of those commonly talked about, I wish my spouse knew, I wish my partner knew statements are, and share just a little bit more about that.
For me, I always, my husband doesn't deal with an ex on my side. So he, while we have a step family situation, he doesn't necessarily face the same challenges as I do. Mm-hmm. And, I would always be reminding him of that, because he would, sometimes not be able to understand why was I feeling or reacting the way I was. But, when I finally got into this world of learning about, there's other stepmoms out there, and there's coaches out there, and once I really dove into that, and podcasts, and just being on Instagram and reading, and I would pass this stuff along to him, and he finally was able to gain perspective and it was like when it's coming out of someone else's mouth, it was easier for him to hear because it didn't sound like I was attacking and that really helped for us was listening to different podcasts and me just sending him things I saw on Instagram and I just, forwarded over. Yeah, so that was a huge help for us.
So just in general, him understanding your perspective, but he needed to hear it through somebody else's experience, so it wasn't as personal for your situation.
Yeah, I think for my husband in particular, he took everything as like an attack.
Do you find that's pretty common across all of the clients that you work with as well?
I
Because
do.
I see that trend as well.
I have found that when I work with couples, especially, and when I'll start saying something or explaining a situation, or even I'll use an example of my own and give it to my clients, and the husbands and wife's face will kind of like, they'll light up and be like, oh, like that's us. Or she said that before, and she'll be like, I feel that way. And he'll have a light bulb moment of like, oh, so it's not just her saying or feeling that way. Like this is a common thing amongst stepmoms or amongst husbands. It even has gone the other way where I try and offer her some perspective on how he might be feeling or what he might be seeing. Yeah, again, I think it's just being open to listening, like really listening to what each other is saying.
Well, it's reflective listening to understand, not just listening like, oh, I hear the words you're saying, but I actually, right, I feel the emotion. I can turn the tables and put myself in your shoes and understand. I know that it's funny because in my personal situation, we both have exes. We both have prior relationships that involve kids. And so you would think we would be better at that, but it actually has been more difficult where we almost hold each other to the standard we want to see. But then when it comes to us doing it, we both found ourselves kind of backtracking or having a different expectation of each other. So we had to work through that, which took conversation and listening and a lot of, compassion to understand one another and each other's perspectives. So to wrap things up today, would love to talk through any tools or strategies that we recommend to help couples find common ground, a place of peace in terms of dealing with an ex and having a strong relationship within your own home.
I'll chime in with kind of an overall of what I typically do with my couples. I work with vision, values, and goals as the family foundation. So the goals piece of that is perfect for this because we need to remember, a couple of things. We need to make sure the kids are okay. That's our big goal. The kids need to be okay. The second big goal is making sure that we're nurturing the relationship. Because if we're not nurturing our relationship, it's easy to, see it crumble. All these little things start building up and it's like a chisel coming against us, that marriage. And then the last thing is setting boundaries together, especially if you're dealing with a high conflict ex or whatever. So the two of you sit down together during that weekly conversation I mentioned and say, okay, what are the boundaries? What are the things that are really outside noise that we need to shut down so that we can stay healthy? And, it's setting boundaries. No text messages from anybody after 8 o'clock at night or no, responding before 7 in the morning or whatever. That's what I sit down and do a lot of boundary setting for my couples with them so that they feel like their marriage is protected and they're on the same page for the goals too. So I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in.
I was just, what you were saying just kind of reminded me of something that we have been doing for a while, and something I teach my clients is keep the ex out of your house. And by that I mean, don't discuss him or her inside of your home. Your home is your safe place. It's your peace. And if you have to, put your, it's cold where I live. Put your coat on and go sit on the front porch with your hot chocolate or your coffee and talk out there. Like keep your ex completely out of the house and keep this your safe, peaceful place. It's definitely helped our home feel more peaceful. And it's definitely helped. A couple of my clients have been doing that as well. So
all really powerful tools and strategies. So if it sounds like so much of this, we could dive so many layers deeper and talk for hours on end, but we are going to wrap it up for today. But along those lines, if you have topics or themes or questions that you'd like answered or talked about, please feel free to reach out to us, share those. We can be reached and followed through Facebook and Instagram at Stepfamily Guides, or you can reach out to us on our website and see our offerings there at stepfamilyguides.com. We thank you for joining us today. We hope this conversation was enlightening and helpful, and we look forward to you tuning in every Saturday for more Step Family Saturday conversations with your Step Family Guides. Have a beautiful